like Jack when I'm kissing him. So I told him that I never really liked his friends. Now he's gone and he's calling me.
Welcome home, all. We are back. It is SuperMex Nation, and it's a Wednesday. And we are going to do a hard-hitting half-hour segment for you to finish up, because we kind of didn't finish up entirely, didn't wrap up from the other night. We were discussing Venezuela, and then we ended up moving to a discussion on foreign policy and, you know, the administration's current foreign policy. We ended up even talking about prior administration's foreign policy, because to emphasize the point, we're not quite done with any of those. It's like an ongoing thing. And in the meantime, others have a clear, consistent foreign policy that goes beyond just 4, 8 years, et cetera. So long story short, we're going to wrap that up kind of tonight. Foreign policy is never entirely done, but we'll wrap up our thoughts on Venezuela into what's going current now. So last thing before we get to that important topic in a short half-hour format, me and Brother Crow here, is that there's plenty going on. Obviously, I mean, literally the news cycle is dominated by what's going on within the administration and the Congress. And even though, in theory, we can talk about that every single day for multiple hours ad nauseum, get the point, ad nauseum, we can do that, choose not to for now, because we're not in that format yet, and maybe one day I will. But I have told you that it's quite literally it's not healthy for you. It kills some brain cells if you're not careful. If that's all you do ad nauseum all day is listen to talk radio, listen to news media, and listen to social media blasts and diatribe and vitriol. It gets to be a little toxic, and it skews you one way or the other. When in SuperMex Nation, we try to hold the true north. We try not to be so hard left, so hard right, that we forget that the majority of us lie in the middle somewhere, and we're trying to get sense of all this mess. But this coming week, we will go into detail and in depth as much as we can, because I mean, I can tell you right now, reading 448 pages of that document, I could literally do hours on each of the items. It's extensive. So I will not do that. We will break it down as much as we can and try to be legit, honest, and fair about how we treat that document and then the result of it, which in my world, it's far more concerning to me that we have disagreement, and we have some disagreement, and we're losing the forest for the trees when it comes to the most important aspect of things that are going on current. And at this point, it doesn't matter what side you line up on, whether you're left or right, but we are quite literally watching in real time, right now, a dichotomy in belief, if not actuality, of what our Constitution is and what it will be going forward. We'll break that down in another time. We'll do that next week, because it's going to be a very, very deep and very, very important topic. I don't do that very often, but it has risen to that level for me, at least. I'm an old U.S. history guy. I swore an oath to defend the Constitution. And if I see the Constitution attacked from left or right, I will say something. And I will point out to you so that you can find your true north. And remember that before there's a damn party, we are Americans. When we created this country, there were no parties. Now we have that issue. There are parties. Those parties are fooling and preying and pulling us apart in ways that are fraying, quite literally, the Constitution. So it doesn't matter where you sit. What I'm going to do when we get to that point this coming week, not Fun Friday because it's Tag That Track Friday, but once we get into next week, we are going to discuss Constitution, and we are going to discuss constitutionality in terms of the things that are going on day to day today. And I'm going to quite literally start that week next week with check your party at the door, check your emotions at the door. Don't step into SuperMex Nation if you cannot be country first and put aside your emotions to do what's right for the country, not just your party or yourself. That was my oath. Okay? So let's get into business here. We got a nice hard-hitting little time that we've got to make use of between myself and Brother Crow. And we're going to finish up and wrap up with what we were talking about with Venezuela and what has diverged into a foreign policy that, in my opinion, is quite literally all over the place, in good and bad. I'm going to point out some good things that I think that are going on. I'm going to point out some bad things, because that's what we do on SuperMex Nation. I don't give a damn about who's at the top and who's at the bottom. I give a damn about what's going on in the middle and what should be doing in terms of what's done right. So that's our episode for tonight. It's foreign policy, beginning and finishing up with Venezuela. So what was your takeaway from the other night, Brother Crow, when and we finished up on Venezuela. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I was like, it kind of. We talk after the show, by the way. You know, we talk a little bit, and we were still jabbering for another half hour on the way home. You know, this clearly not done, because foreign policy at this point, you know, and I think we both kind of agreed. It's like we need some consistency with foreign policy. You can bring up, you know, kind of your wheelhouse on Saudi Arabia and what the hell's going on with Saudi Arabia, and like, wait, that's not good. Right. But then I can turn around like the next week and I can say legitimately, and Jeff and I haven't talked about this next point, but I can say legitimately that I support the president on the China issue. Sure. In terms of tariff and trade war. I do believe. I do believe we've been getting hosed, and that's probably, I think I'm going to say this, that's where the president's wheelhouse is in terms of his strongest supporters. We've been getting hosed as a country for many, many years, many, many decades. And I'm not going to blame every single president and say, oh, that guy was bad, this guy was worse. We don't need to do that, because they're all good and bad differently. But no question that China...
They've tried different things, and you don't really know, none of
what's
us
going to
know.
work.
Exactly. We don't know
until we find out later.
Sometimes you have to do with foreign countries, especially powerful ones like China.
Yep.
Sometimes you do have to do trial and error, because the CIA, the Pentagon, everybody else can tell you, or your trade representatives can tell you, this is what's going to happen if you do this. That's not always what happens.
Right.
You know, they have the right, they have the ability to counteract, and
Right. So I think we're kind of in. I'll say that. So before we begin, we're kind of in agreement there that the China situation, something needs to be done. And I had a guy ask me today, and he's a little further to my left. He's a Dem, and he said, he goes, well, I don't know what's going on in China, but I don't trust the president to do, what I said, it's not a trust thing. It's like, and so by the time I was done explaining it, to my friend here, this other guy, that we need to do something about China. I actually got him to understand that if we do nothing, then we are going to be perpetually at a loss with China, because they're quite literally eating our lunch too. So he was in agreement that, okay, so when we were done, like, all right, put the president aside, whether you like or dislike the president. The fact is, something needs to be done about China in terms of our trade differential and the money that we are losing and the potential for us.
Yes, I'm sorry, folks. I'm sharing out the broadcast. So yeah.
So let me hook you up. I won't give him help.
Hello,
so make sure you're doing that anyway. Okay, you guys should be doing that anyway.
Share, please.
Share out, because this is a very important.
We love comments. We love share. Right?
20-something minutes of hard-hitting action that you're not going to get anywhere else. No commercial. Boom, boom, boom. This is serious material on foreign policy and the Trump foreign policy as is. So I'm going to go on record as saying I'm definitely in support of the president when it comes to China, and not relinquishing or budging or backing off on our trade situation with China. Yes. Because potentially it can only get worse. It's only going to get worse.
We're actually, it's, we're sort of in that position where we've tried everything else. We're so far behind the 8 ball anyways that you almost can't go anywhere but up, right? There's
right.
And actually, to give Trump credit, it seems to be working so far. China did go back to the negotiating table, which is unheard of, and Trump. One thing Trump does understand is business. We'll give him that. He also understands long-term finance. He says he didn't go bankrupt, but I think his corporation did. His corporation.
That's the wrong day to be talking about that one.
But he has bounced back though, so I'll give him that. He's bounced back from it in long-term finance.
I won't be too brutal, but you and I couldn't bounce back like that. That's for damn sure.
Also, I don't see how you can take a casino and have it go under. It's one of those industries where it's like, wait a minute. But anyways, all that aside, Trump.
Mafia's going to get you. You better watch it.
Doubt,
Mafia's going to get you. Let's walk back. Let's walk back to Venezuela.
Exactly. I think with China, just a quick note is that he by being tough with them and recognizing our strengths, which being our marketplace, we still have the world's largest market for goods.
We're still the United States.
Right. He's using that, and he's got the guts to do it on that. I appreciate him for doing that. Venezuela.
You're kind. I don't appreciate him. He should do his damn job.
Well,
and here's the thing. I call it even.
Sure.
Do your damn job. He's doing his job in China. On record.
I guess the word appreciate has to be in context of what we've had before. Or we've had.
I will tell you, it's like you do know
specific ones.
Okay, when it comes to presidents, I have no mercy for presidents. You know that.
No, it's definitely from the
thing. To me, when you get to hold the most powerful position on the planet, I got no mercy for you.
Well, yeah,
you got to do your damn job.
I'm just comparing him to pretty much almost every president from Richard Nixon on. Nixon opened up China. Most of us know this.
Correct.
From Nixon on, it's accelerated under Bush Sr., I would say. They've taken our lunch. they've taken our lunch financially. So for him, it's in comparison of that, not comparison of the ideal. Ideally speaking, we would have been way harder on them years ago. And, but
I would say this, like
have,
in general, if I'm being a little forgiving of presidents since Nixon,
right?
I don't think any of them, and I'm going to say this, I don't think any of them really had. Let's do this from Nixon to '89. You know what I'm doing there,
right?
Nixon to '89, we clearly had an understandable foreign policy, major issue, which was Russia.
Right.
The Soviet Union.
Yes.
That was clearly where our foreign policy was oriented for all the right reasons. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, it needed to be. It needed to be.
Yes.
And every president, whether you were Republican or Democrat, that was part of that chain from World War II to George H.W.
Right.
Bush, you can quibble about what they did or didn't do, but they all did their piece and their part. And then Bush was in office when the deal was closed, and that communist mentality fell. So from there to then, we can understand that. And the point I'm making is that China, even though we knew they were a massive growing world power, we didn't understand them in the sense that we had a clear foreign policy deduction on how we would treat them and how we would go forward.
We didn't treat them
So
with
our
the
eyes
same
weren't-
harshness that we treated
Our eyes
the
were clearly,
Soviets.
so in a way, they were able to, like below the radar,
Right.
our oxygen was occupied by Russia. That is clearly a fact because it needed to be. No harm, no foul there, one way or the other. But we didn't have something that was set and distinct in terms of China, at least up until '89 and the early '90s, and then even after that.
And I would say that two things. One is that our Congress and both parties used to have an understanding that politics ends at the water's edge. Once, unfortunately, that's been thrown out the window, and that is going to come back to haunt us, in my view. It's going to come back. It's already damaging us, and it's going to damage us more until some adult steps into the room who can influence the Democrats, an adult on the Republican side who can influence them, which ain't going to happen. But if it,
we're going to get Michigan Mike in the room, and he's going to make them play nice.
That's no doubt. Huh?
Make them play nice. Let's do this.
So the other thing
we're going to need to walk.
I think they misunderstood Tiananmen Square. We can talk about it another time, but the Tiananmen Square was really a make or break point.
KP, can you give me a time thing?
But
I don't know how much we got left.
So anyhow. Yeah.
So let's walk back because we'll be here on China all night. So
right.
I think
point
of fact, that's where we're going. Point of fact is that I think the president's doing what he needs to do. Now, like for most of you guys, like I don't fawn over the president. I don't hate the president. It's a job. It's an office. He has a responsibility, duty, and obligation to the country. So I hold every president's feet to the fire when it comes to our country and its foreign policy, specifically our foreign policy, because a lot of you guys know that's kind of where I end up spending a lot of time, probably more than I need to. But no question that China is an issue. And if we don't get a hard handle on that issue, then it's only going to get worse in terms of trade, in terms of world economy, in terms of everything. We've got issues, right? And we got to solve them. So I'm with the president on his tactic, at least for now, with what we're doing in China. There. So back to Venezuela, because I'm not, or at least I don't know what the hell he's doing in Venezuela.
It's hard to judge
in Venezuela. I really don't know. So we finished this show on Monday, and I was left with what? I'm walking away. We have no clear hard handle. And so over those last few days since then, the result has been that, we got through the weekend into Monday, and the only result was that he said, and I have issue with this, all right? I can take shots at the president or give him praise equally, depending on the issue and depending on the situation. So China, good. Venezuela, I don't know what the hell's going on. In Venezuela, Mike Pompeo and part of the administration says that Russians have boots on the ground in Venezuela. There's a Russian presence there. They're influencing that quagmire between Maduro and Guaido, and we don't know what the hell's going on. We don't know what our foreign policy is. And the president goes on and says that Putin told him that there is nothing going on Russia's end. And I'm sitting here saying, I'm not happy.
That's
like, what the hell?
I'm assuming Trump doesn't believe that.
I don't know what he believes. My point is, though, that it's not even consistent.
Venezuela has been a long-term ally, long-time ally of both Russia and China. And anybody that wants to pretend like they aren't has got their head in the sand. You know, that's
my point is that I just want some.
You understand that China,
I want
Russia,
I want consistency within our own administrative message from our foreign policy, because I quite literally talked to people on the left and the right this week since Venezuela. Got some of you guys messaging me in private, and that was kind of cool, by the way. I do read my messages, and they may even come up on the show, and I might bring you up, if not by name, then by thought with what you talked about. I had some of you guys message me like, yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on in Venezuela either. And I'm like, okay, join the majority of the crowd, because the majority of the crowd doesn't know. And what we're talking about is not that we don't know what's going on in Venezuela, like personally, from a physical perspective, but that we don't know what we are doing as an administration and as a United States government. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, from what we know in the public, I would say yes to that it appears as though we don't have a cohesive message there, or incoherent.
And now, consistent. And that's kind of, that's a pet peeve for me.
I hope they have something behind the scenes that they're doing. It'd be nice to know that this is a plan of some type. When I put this out the other day, after Monday's episode, I had a bunch of the hardcore Trump base say, hey, what about 4D chess? 4D chess. Okay, yeah, that happens on some issues. There's been a few issues where Trump has pulled out the 4D chess card, but I don't know about this one. This is not one that I...
So let's get an agreement, because this is about the only agreement that we got out of this mess, out of the Monday, and from comments from the listeners, from my viewers, from you guys, was that like consensus from the left and the right, and even in the middle. All of you guys were kind of really like definite on not, us being involved in a physical sense, in a military sense, meaning no troops. I mean, because here's where it's at. If we had troops and we put troops in Venezuela, you know what happens, right? We're going to brush up against some Russian homeboys.
Yeah, we'll end up in World War III. There's no doubt in my mind.
I won't go that far, but the potential,
once
right?
American troops and Russian troops are shooting at each other
in the same location.
Yeah,
right?
That's not
because we know the other guy's not going to back off,
and we know China will back up their bros in Russia. They will. Although,
so you guys, I'll say this. So you guys were all.
We don't want it to fly out of control.
Yeah, you guys were all fairly consistent on you do not want American troops in Venezuela for obvious reasons. And I think the simpler one is because there are damn Russian troops in Venezuela already, which goes to the larger problem. And I kind of brought this up to a degree. We didn't get to it and flesh it out on the Monday. But, there is no Monroe Doctrine. This isn't 1960s.
That's out the door.
Yeah, this isn't 1960s and there are potential, missiles in Cuba. And Kennedy says, oh, no. Now, you guys know I'm a Kennedy fan. I'm not saying he was perfect or the greatest, but he was a damn good president. I don't give a damn, and I'll argue with anybody for my own reasons. If anything, just be out of... How many presidents inspire you anymore? There you go. No I can tell you this much.
How many presidents are really worthy
of inspiration,
worthy
of inspiration,
being put on a coin or a dollar bill?
Yeah, we're beyond that. But I'll tell you this, and this is like sidebar, but the truth is that growing up, I read PT 109, and for all you young guys out there, all you young guys out there, and all you older folk, my age,
young at heart.
Okay, and you make your kids read John F. Kennedy, PT 109, okay, because that's one of the last presidents.
Didn't he swim like 500 yards?
Exactly.
Shark-infested water with a broken arm and saved his comrades?
An example of a leader, because not all presidents are leaders anymore. And you guys can take issue, but I don't think we've had a president as a leader in a long, long time, meaning where the entire country gets behind that person and says, let's do it. We haven't had that in a long time. So John F. Kennedy, he was that kind of leader. He led by example. He put himself in harm's way. He served his country. He was nearly dead. He lost his brother in that war. And he nearly
Kennedy,
died.
The top secret
the oldest
mission.
John F. Kennedy was never supposed to be the Kennedy that ran for president. He was supposed to be the son, the oldest son.
That's a heck
Joseph.
of a story too.
No, it's a hell of a story.
When JFK got back from from PT 109, he's at a family reunion, And, he's being toasted as an American hero already.
Yep.
And Joe Kennedy was like, okay, I'm going to do even more. That's some real Americanism right there.
That's America.
Where
I'm willing to give myself.
Great and you're like, well, I'm going to do greater.
Yeah, and not just out of like a competitive thing, but out of like an obligation and a responsibility duty thing. That's how
you guys
I
got to
feel.
check out Joe Kennedy's story with that. He was his mission.
We'll digress. I'll talk about John Kennedy all night.
Yeah,
but I think so. So anyway, let's get back to.
By the way, just back to Venezuela. I looked it up right now. A map of South America. One of our viewers said a very astute thing. Is that he saw? Did you guys notice? And this guy, by the way, is an former Army intelligence guy. So I take his word on military stuff very serious. He had said.
I see how it is.
Yeah.
I see how it is.
We all learn from one another.
Some of us don't.
But okay, he had said, Jeff, did you notice that Trump called Bolsonaro in for a meeting and had whatnot? Like, yeah, that's right, he did. All of Venezuela's southern border it's completely Brazil,
Right.
and so there's got to be something going on with them, Pompeo, Bolsonaro, Trump there. And then you look at he had said look at a map of it, and I should have done this yesterday, but Venezuela's northern border is all ocean. The western border is Colombia, who is also a pal of ours, and then the eastern border is Guyana, which is sort of up in the air. So he's like, look, we have them on two sides for sure, their west and their south. We should be able to block them off on the north. And he's all, but the wild card is the eastern border. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. And that's sort of along the lines of Kennedy. We were chatting on Monday, folks, if you guys will recall, that we were talking about there's got to be some type of containment, maybe similar to the Cuba containment.
I would hope.
Right.
I'm remaining optimistic.
Yes, it's all we have.
But here's the thing. It is.
Prayers,
okay,
folks.
I'm remaining optimistic, but I'm going to say it. I don't like inconsistency in messaging. I don't like inconsistency and lack of coherence, with what we got from a Secretary of State and the President says something totally counter.
Yes.
And then, so you do know, and I know the viewers are really kind of getting the point. I'm not a big fan of, I'll probably, I got to watch my food. Not a big fan of Vladimir Putin. Not in the sense that I don't respect what the guy does, because anybody, in all honesty, that has been watching this guy as long as I have, and I have been paying attention to him. The guy scared me a while ago, years ago, and I'm saying this guy is ridiculously bright and strategic. He's a ruthless combination.
If I was a Russian citizen, I would love him a lot, but I'd also be a little bit worried too.
And you should,
because if he's built his country back up relatively good.
Well, my point is
from his
this.
point of view. From our point of view as Americans, we need to be. Wait a minute.
We could take shots at what Russia is and what it is not. However, this is what I see because it's legit and it's a straight assessment. They are reconstituting what was the former Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It's no longer that communist regime that we all knew as the monolithic one binary enemy, to us. But at our expense, Putin is all over the map. Putin is all over the world. Putin is gobbling up resources. And I said this to my daughter because we had this discussion. It was kind of cool, actually. She's getting ready for an AP government class, and we were talking about government. 17-year-old girl. And she pointed out some things, and I was like, that's very good. I said that Putin's gobbling up parts of the planet. It's not just in terms of materiel, I-E-L, okay? And that means what? Oil, mineral, whatever. Physical resourcing. There's also human capital involved as well. When you have the ability to influence other governments and other entities, other nation states, then you move that human capital, people, in other directions away from the United States. Because at this point, everything is a zero-sum game on our end, where we can't possibly get any stronger in some of these places. We're losing place and position. Venezuela just happens to be the most recent one. And by the way, Venezuela just so happens to be the most recent one in near location to us, which is my issue. And that's fair and legit. We live in this country, right, where it's freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and all the other. Well, I'm telling you that I'm speaking freely here. I do have serious concerns, and I would really like the president to stand up and tell Putin to go take a damn hike and stop telling us that we believe him over our own intelligence agencies, or that he believes Putin over Secretary Mike Pompeo. I want that consistency. You want to be America first? Don't side with the Russian, side with the American. Damn, that's pretty good. You want to be America first? Side with your people. Don't be making enemies of them within your own damn body. Side with your own people, not the enemy that you know is gobbling up our lunch. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys may not like it, but it's a damn fact. Russia is getting stronger. We are not in the same way. So that's my issue with the Venezuela situation. I just see another country being influenced by a foreign power, and it's closer to home, closer to our area. And I'm telling you, you want to talk about 4D chess? Right now, Putin's doing that all over the globe, all over the damn map. I have major issue with it. So
he's going to find out in the long run. Putin will, or Russia, because he's not going to be able to handle Russia after this term is up. He's getting old himself. But I
don't know.
He's
that dude, man. I'm telling you.
Well, he'll control the next.
I hope not. I hope not.
They have a czar system still for de facto czar. And the communist system was the same way. They had Stalin, and they had, these guys were.
I heard
dictators.
that about him 8 years
all
ago.
The same. They're the same way.
When he stepped out of the presidency, he still manipulated things.
That's what I said. He'll control it still, but he's going to eventually, croak like the rest of those ancient communist leaders always do over there. And here's what's going to happen, in my view, over
Let's
the long run.
hope they have nobody else like him.
I don't think I don't think anybody will be able to hold it up. It'll be similar to North Korea, where Kim Jong-un's grandfather, very brilliant, bright guy, could win battles in the Korean War. I don't like communists. I don't like him. But I will say Kim Jong-un's grandfather was a smart, intelligent leader. Evil, but smart. His dad, not as good of a military guy and other stuff. But
we've got 3 minutes. Let me direct you to something else.
I think Russia's going to be overextended here with this, and we need to make sure to expedite that overextension.
I'll disagree a little. I don't think so.
Not yet. Over the next.
I'm going to tell you why.
They
because
can't afford to go all over the
this
globe.
Isn't. I will agree with that. Okay, but I will say this too: that for anybody that genuinely thinks that this guy has not plotted these things out over multiple years, multiple administrations, by our count, he's got backup plans for his backup plans.
Yeah,
and we don't.
He's playing 60 Russian tech
and
chess.
we don't. So here's I'm going to walk you back because we got a few minutes left.
Yeah,
this thing, so I think we're clear on the China thing. I'm all for what the president's doing. I'm definitely confused as all hell on Venezuela. What do you think about the Iran situation? Real quick.
I don't trust Pompeo or Bolton or even.
I think they're moving us to a posture.
That's what I'm saying. There's going to. I'm predicting right
now.
Have
we not been down this road before?
They're going to. They're setting us up for what's called a false flag attack, in my view. Nothing new in America or around the world.
So I'm going to feed you a softball. So I'm going to feed you a softball.
Yeah,
Watch
I don't agree with any intervention.
I'm going to feed you a softball. You ready?
All right,
feed you a softball. There's a big fat one, and if you sit with the bat on the shoulder,
put it on the tee, my bro.
I'm going to smack you if you don't hit this one hard. Right? So here's the softball.
Okay, go ahead.
So we probably will get a nice friendly call if we haven't gotten it already from our homeboys further to the west on the Mediterranean shore, telling us there's intel from Mossad that there's weapons of mass destruction or something.
Yeah,
that ain't even funny. But seriously,
W&Ds will be the next one up there, and
let's do this. How many people? I want to get you guys on my feet tonight. I'm going to genuinely want this. How many people actually think that Iran can do us damage? And I'm not talking about like around the
in their backyard.
Yes,
sure,
okay. If
they can
we're
hit
there,
a ship
right?
or two.
So
yes.
we're there. Okay, and by the way, we do have troops there. We're not in Iran specifically, but within range.
In the Strait of Hormuz, yes.
And in Iraq.
Yeah,
we still have troops in Iraq.
We do.
Okay, I'd remind you that 2 years ago my son was there with 82nd, and we still have troops in and around Iraq, not far from Iran. But how many of you legitimately believe? Because I remember this question going back to the the WMD argument. I never felt that we needed to fear Iraq in a physical sense militarily.
Absolutely. Exactly.
So how many of you guys genuinely fear, like for our country, that Iran's going to attack us and beat us?
Is that my
Seriously.
softball question too?
That's a softball question. Hit it.
Do I fear them? No.
That's a. So if we start getting the propaganda and the inundation,
if we go to war in Iran, it'll be because of two simple reasons. Saudi Arabia and Israel will have said we don't like them. Saudi Arabia, Sunni Muslims, Iran, Shia Muslims. Israel, Jews.
I'll tell you what.
Iran, Muslims.
We'll have to wrap
That's
there,
where it
but
goes.
listen, with that thought, though, I tell you what, I'll make this promise tonight. One of these nights, we will have a breakdown of Shia and Sunni Muslim and what that means.
That's a good one.
I'm going to tell you why, because there is a big
that.
difference in what you guys understand as Muslim people and which ones are most likely to be a little more aggressive or attack us directly. There is a difference. I won't get into it here, but it's historic. It's an historical difference. There is a difference between Shia and Sunni Muslims. They're different in their approach to the rest of the world and their foreign policy.
Watch our episode about the Yemen situation. That gives you a little bit.
We're going to have to get back to
an overview.
We're going to have to get back to that because if you remember, Trump vetoed that.
Yes,
and that was bipartisan.
Bad veto.
Listen, Republicans and Democrats agreed that we should stop sending money to Saudi Arabia so they can go kill little kids in Yemen.
That could have been a great America
and that was
first
vetoed.
moment.
That was vetoed.
Yes.
So we'll have to stop there.
Ball.
Okay, so for those of you guys that are on air right now, you're going to help my homegirl out in a second because Maria with TV Musica is finished. Okay, so Maria Rangel with TV Musica is on right after us. It is in Spanish, but I'm asking you, even so for some of you guys in Indiana, back in New York and other parts of the country,
upstate Michigan,
it may not be your language, your first language, but I want you to at least buzz in, tune in, share, like, and help her because she's the newest member of the SuperMex Network. And we want your attention on her to help her get off the ground and grow what she's doing. She's doing good things in a cultural way for our area and music and arts in general. And that's absolutely necessary. When you've got young people and young America paying attention to arts, being involved actively, not doing the bad things that we complain about, then that's on us, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite literally on us. So support her. She'll be on right after us on the SuperMex Network. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys on Fun Friday.
Powers.
Choing, what's that? Watch out.